from Western Europe. But as you see here from the map, we actually got people from all over the world, which I think is very, very exciting.
Think about your leadership and management challenges. Again, we're really interested in that because when you're at the most senior level, you are leading teams. They might be small, but they've got to have a huge impact. They might be 400 people globally. They might be virtual teams. They might be in lots of different countries that you don't see. You have to build relationships. So your leadership ability and management ability is really, really important.
I thought it was so brilliant to see both the academic perspective and also see other practitioners, especially the McKinsey team that work in an environment which is very similar to the one I work in. And I took a lot of pictures of the slides, and I will most certainly share that with my team, because they have actually managed to crack one of the codes going from measuring the channel effectiveness to how it influenced people's perception and then how it influenced their behavior, which was very, very interesting and a good learning point for me and my team. I think that what people picked up on my presentation was very, very astute when I looked at the Twitter feeds, because it was kind of, if you can't measure it, don't do it. Know what you want to achieve before you set out on activities, so the kind of planning properly and be market relevant. I think that people picked that up very nicely. So even if the Twitter feed might make you think that, did people listen? When you look at what they actually wrote, yes, they did.
Now, the definition, tangibility, is something you can physically put your hand on. But I think there's also tangibility in communications. If you're, there's more than 5 minutes. I have 7 minutes left. If you're showing somebody a good story, it hits them in their heart. You've got emotional tangibility. If you're showing good pictures, good imagery, good video, it sticks in their head, you've got visual tangibility. If you're giving people information they can take away and use for themselves, information they can share with other people, informational tangibility. It's a much more natural way to connect with an audience. It's an organic connection. They're drawn in on an emotional level before they even realize they've been drawn in, because they're drawn in on an emotional level. And it's a much more sustainable connection. People know a media line, they know a press line when they hear it very fleeting, because they're cold, they're institutional, they're lacking tangibility. And you can build tangibility into any form of communication. Of course, you can tell a good story in a video. You can also tell a good story in a photo gallery. You can tell a good story in an infographic. You could even tell a good story in a press release if you have this kind of concept in mind when you're approaching that communications task.
So the thing we were asked to talk about was how data can be used to show that communications is actually changing the business. And we had a couple pieces on that. One was to think about measuring the behavior that you're actually trying to change. The example I talked about was we are trying to get people to pay more attention to physical security in the organization we work in. And so if we're trying to get people not to let others into the secure area without showing their badge, we actually could have somebody, an actor, pretend to follow somebody in, sort of tailgate somebody in, and see if that person gets stopped. And measuring how often that person is stopped is actually the most tangible representation of whether or not the communications are working or not. So I think there's a perception that behavior change and surveying and measuring the effectiveness of communication needs to be a massive effort that requires lots of analytics and lots of dedicated experts, and it doesn't at all. And sometimes the most tangible things that are so easy to explain can be the most powerful.
Yeah. And it also doesn't have to be daunting or complicated. That's the other thing we talked about, that actually looking for ways to get information quickly about how things are working can really be fun, and it can be a chance to be creative as a communicator. So measurement is not just for pointy-headed analytical types, it's also for communicators, and we think it'll help you have more impact and it'll help you have more fun in your career.
Great.
Honestly, I think the key thing I've taken away from participating in EuroComm this year, and it's the first time I've participated and we've come as an organisation, is there's a genuine drive and passion to do things differently, break the mould. redefine what engagement and communication really is and how powerful it can be within an organisation. And I think we've got the mandate now to drive that forward. I think the opportunity to collaborate and meet lots of different organisations from lots of different sectors is invaluable, actually, in terms of just taking a little bit of new thinking. If you take away one or two things from EuroComm and you're able to apply that to your business tomorrow, it's done its job.